Right, Disqualified Dad, part 4.2. I'm going to try and continue as it's very difficult to get these videos in and to cover all aspects. And also it's very cold, I'm in the van. As you know, some of you know, I live out the van sometimes and it's a bit chilly. Right, let's press on. The last video may have got cut off in the last few seconds. Just to finish that story about that chap off. Basically, what I believe happened in that scenario is where she saw her dad as this perpetrator, this abuser. When she got married, that sort of label she took with her and put it onto her husband. And in her mind, that focus shifted from her dad being this monster to now her husband is this monster. And that's what I believe happened in that scenario. And, you know, I'm still praying for that chap and his family and his children, you know. God willing, they'll be okay. Right, going into another situation now. I'm going to tell you tactics that the in-laws can use. And this is what I'm saying. When your child has these problems in the community, what tends to happen, and this is why I call it community related. Other communities that have accepted mental, emotional, you know, psychological health, they openly go, they get medication, they talk about it. Mental health is, you know, been spoken about in the on the mainstream media now for the last few years. It's really out there. I think the Asian community still, again, the old school, still trying to hide and protect and don't want they see everything as an embarrassment or a shame, unfortunately. And when your child is behaving badly, instead of going and helping them, it's easier to cover it up and blame it on the third person, blame it on someone else, blame it on someone who seems like a nice person who ain't going to retaliate. Just put that, it's like, let's put this chain, you know, this weighted chain around their neck, pass the problem on to someone else and blame someone else. That is the other thing with those that engage in this sort of coercive control, manipulation and behavior. Any scenario, this is another thing you need to, there will be no criticism taken. Everything will be someone else's fault. Now, all the case studies that I've done, it will be, I haven't got this because of my dad or my brother, my sister, my husband, my friend. It's her fault, his fault. It's everyone else's fault except the individual, except the perpetrator. There's no self-responsibility. There is no self-criticism. Everything, all blame is put on everything else. And the closest person, you gotta understand, unfortunately in these scenarios, this is what happens. The person, sorry, excuse me, the person closest to the perpetrator is their husband. The person closest to the coercive controller and that form of mental abuser is the husband. So he gets the brunt of it. Or it could be the wife in some cases. I'm not saying it's only one way. It could be the wife in some cases. It could be the wife in many cases as well. But the person taking it, like I said, they look like the abuser. The person doing the abuse look like the victim. As far as the world is concerned, and like I said, it's easy to paint a guy, unfortunately, from the community, being brown, backward, doesn't love his daughters. It's very easy to paint someone like that as an abuser or a bastard, yeah? Now, it's very easy to do this already. So the abuser doing it, the perpetrator, the coercive controller, the wife in the scenarios that I'm talking about, as in it's easier to give because, like I said, a weapon of choice for the women of the community. They take no self-responsibility or criticism, and the closest person to them blame is the husband. Everything's the husband's fault. Someone comes around, why ain't this done? Why is the house messy? It's him. He does it. He makes a mess. He doesn't do this. He doesn't... whatever, he doesn't give me money, he doesn't, everything is someone else's fault. Oh, he doesn't play with the kids, he didn't clean it up. Why is that messy? Because he didn't clean it up. Because there is, everything is someone else's fault. So every 80% is the husband's fault. When the husband questions her on some other things, she'll blame the friend or the sister or dad or whoever. Another thing to look out for, and this is what I'm saying, you gotta say, why do men then hang around, stick around? Why don't they challenge this? As we mentioned in previous videos, they have your children. The perpetrator is the main carer for your children, potentially at times. You can still be a carer, but you have limited contact and your environment is controlled. The children barely ever know who you are and respect you because of the control they're under, let alone your extended family. So you got to try and hold on to the little that you got, the little influence that you have in your children's life, protect them. So a lot of men put their head down and carry on. Also, the other weapon is that the perpetrator uses. The perpetrator, the coercive control of women, especially the community, they put on the tears. There's a common theme that I've noticed in many cases that I've studied now. You know, women, they tell their husbands how they weren't loved. They were abused. Their dad hit them. Their dad never loved them. They never got any attention. They create that feeling of you feel guilty. So what happens is, though you are suffering as the husband, you are suffering, the world thinks you're this abuser, this monster, you're stuck, you can't go anywhere, you're going to lose your kids, you're going to potentially lose your home, you lose everything, you're worried. And you're worried about your children. You're worried about how the world perceives you. So you told the line, you told the party line, you be a good little boy, head down. But at the same time, you feel guilty. This is still your wife. You may have feelings for her. You love this individual. So what do? You be the bigger person. You understand this person is not well, so you be the bigger person. You just stay quiet. You don't say anything. You don't tell anyone. Also, you feel guilty. You think, where's this person going to go? If I do step up, firstly, my kids, all of that will be, it'll affect my children. Number one. Number two, you think, oh, well, her dad didn't love her. Poor girl. Maybe I can give her some happiness. Maybe I should just concede. Maybe I'm going mad. And maybe I should just nod along with everything because I want to make her happy. Poor girl. You feel sorry. You feel guilty. The community makes you feel guilty. No one wants to talk about divorce and separation. No one wants to hear you. And those that do hear you laugh at you. What do? And you feel bad for this person because you fall into the trap. You are conditioned as well. If you've lived with someone like this for years, day to day, do you not think it'll affect you as someone around them? If you're around someone like that, do you not think it'll affect you mentally, emotionally? Do you not think that persona of victimhood, that face they have planted, completely victim, you're watching that victim face all day, every day, do you not think that affects you? Do you not start believing they're a victim? Maybe subconsciously, on some of the studies that I've done and looked at, some of the men they said they felt guilty. A lot of guys that I've spoken to, they said I couldn't say anything. I sort of told the line and didn't take my kids to my uncles and my children's uncles. So I didn't take the kids to my brothers or sisters or my mum and dad's house because I thought I knew it would upset her. I didn't want to upset her. Because if you upset her, you don't know how that reaction will play out. How much more lies will be made up about you. How just damage limitation. And at the same time, you feel guilty. And if this makes that person happy, then I won't let my kids see their grandparent. I will nod along. I'll try it. If there's resistance, I won't fight it. I'll just let it go. You are being coercively controlled. That is why it's called real coercive control, because you are being controlled. You have now told the line to keep the abuser happy, the person pulling the string. You want to keep them happy, so you've nodded along, you've conceded. Who's controlling who? And this is another weapon of choice by them, making you feel guilty, making you feel sorry for them. They tell you stories about how their friends have had them over. Their brothers and sisters have not always looked out for her. They were singled out. Their dad never loved them. Their mum never loved them. Extended family did them bad. Do you understand what I'm saying? This person portrays to you as well. So when they're with you and you are talking, you try and get along, they portray themselves to be the victim to you with the other people. So they tell you one story about all their other circles. When they're in that circle, they tell them different stories about you. No one circle never gets to fully speak to all the other circles to fully ever understand the truth about what's going on out there. These people know exactly what they're doing. They know they've got you. They've got your children. They are controlling you. You are being coercively controlled. Mum and dad, the controller, the perpetrator, the girl's mum and dad, which potentially could be your mother and father-in-laws. I've said, if you're a guy, it could be your mother and father. They will back the perpetrator to the hill because that covers up their mistakes and flaws and faults. Blame it on that guy, an outside family. Put the problem around someone else's neck and say they did this. My daughter was an angel before she got married. My daughter was an angel until she met that lot. They're animals. That's what they do. Really? And this is where things like this in the community unfortunately do not get out. They don't get spoken about. They don't get called out. And then the problem is in the community, there's other people in the, Gujarat Asian community someone tells you something, straight away you tell someone, they'll believe it, start gossiping. Then not one person thinks, let me ask the question, let me look deeper, and did this really happen? Is that possible? Does he come across like that? Is his family really like that? I've heard of one story. I was talking to this one chap. His wife is claiming that she was forced to do physical labor and work in her husband's mum and dad's house. She was there every day working. From what I understand, this chap lived separately from day one. He had his own place from day dot. So how did they physically labor every day there when they lived separately from day one? And to all those girls in the community, Gujarati girls that are looking, watching this, thinking, I'm sort of painting Gujarati. I'm not. I respect everyone, that we have to address these issues in our community. Tomorrow it could be your brother, your nephew, your cousin could be. You could lose a loved one to this sort of control. They will become a shell of themselves. As I said before, they will hide away. They will not communicate. They've got no one to go to. God forbid tomorrow the suicide rate spikes in the Asian community because no one addressed this. We need to call this behaviour out. We have to pull together. The community needs to pull together. All this covering up and blaming, it's just not helping anyone. And that's why I'm here. We got to address this. A lot of people have reached out to me. I'm bringing out their stories. I'll give you another thing to look out for. And this is the trick that the in-laws play that you got to watch out. If you're a bloke and you're at your in-laws, you're going to understand when you've got your guard down, sometimes you don't know how to react, because when you feel loved and warmth and then someone starts having jabs at you, you can't switch it on straight away because you're a nice person. So you're sitting, I know of one chap, and this one story goes back a few years. This chap lives up north. Now, poor chap came to see his in-laws. He travelled to the in-laws' house, quite a distance from where he is, went to see his in-laws. They sat him down. His missus, so their daughter, so his missus went out shopping or whatever. So this chap, his mother and father, this geezer, his mother and father sat him down, gave him a cup of tea, the usual samosas, kebabs, love and affection. And during this conversation, they proceeded to tell him and write a schedule for him. They said to this chap that we believe you should drop your kids to school in the morning, not our daughter. Poor geezer's got a samosa in his mouth, cup in the other, nearly chokes on his samosa and thinks like, what are you talking about? So this sort of involvement, I call this soft control. They're not aggressive, they're being polite. These are soft tactics. You don't see them coming. In the Asian community, it's called a sweet knife. If it's a sweet knife, you don't see it coming. Things are so sweet, you feel so good, and then boom, before you know it, knife's in. It's called a sweet knife. So they feeding him, giving him love and affection, talking to him with a lot of respect. And within this talk of respect and politeness, they're saying, we believe you should be dropping her. Our daughter's working too hard. So this guy, I think first he was a bit taken back as to how someone can tell you how to run your own household, number one. How you can be challenged. How can someone tell you what to do in your house, what you should be doing and not doing? That's for you and your wife to discuss and sort out. How the hell can your mother and father-in-law tell you what you should and should not be doing in your household? This poor chap, again, he's a very eloquent chap. He's he's not a pushover. He's a level-headed chap. He's a community man. He understands these things. I'm sure he put his samosa and tea down and he proceeded to explain, I am a businessman. I run multiple businesses. I have to go out there to keep an eye on these businesses. Yeah? Because your daughter feels she's not up to dropping the children to school and you telling me and getting involved in my business, you're telling me I should shut my business down for that 1 hour a day, let my community, my clients, and let it impact my whole business, my employees, because I have to go and do the school run, because that's what you think is correct. His mother and father-in-law told him he should be doing the school run in the morning. It's his job. When did the community, tell me someone, I want people out the community, the Gujaratis, the Pakistanis, Bangladeshis, even other communities, English, black communities, every community, reach out to me and tell me, does this go on in your community? Your father-in-law and mother-in-law tell you how to run your day, what you should be doing, what you should be doing in your house. Who decides who takes your kids to school? Your mother and father-in-law, or you and your partner decide between yourselves? Tell me that. When did this happen? So I was a bit shocked. I didn't know how to react. I listened to this chap, and you know, he managed himself, he sorted it out, a good chap. But